I hadn't done any martial arts growing up. I was a team sport guy. That was all my peers. I played a lot of hockey, little soccer, some baseball, but martial arts wasn't in my my kind of orbit. There's a difference between training and fighting. Like, you know, when you're training for your event, you're training, and then you're training for your strength event, right? So you're not trying to max out in the gym all the time. It's counterproductive, right? It's the same thing. If you're killing each other when you're sparring and you're hurt and you're damaged and you can't train, then it doesn't really help. Just in the last 2 years, Muay Thai has become accepted as an Olympic sport. It's not actually in the Olympics yet, but it's gone through this process where it's been accepted as an Olympic sport.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. It is a true blessing to be able to connect with the top minds in strength each and every week and share stories, insights, and experiences on becoming stronger in every area of our lives. And now I want to do more for you. I want to invite you to join the exclusive private Facebook group of The Strength Connection. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength in their lives, and it's the perfect space to explore ideas and share your journey. You'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. Just go to the Facebook groups, type in the Strength Connection, and you'll be accepted immediately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the inside. Welcome back, everybody. Steve, it is so nice to meet you. As I was saying off air, I've heard so much about 5 Points Academy, all great stuff. So it's really great to meet you and dive in. I appreciate you doing this.
It's really great to be here. Thank you very much. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah. So like cool. I said, it's I know one of your coaches, Ian, got a chance to work with him before. And then I've known a few people who have gone through 5 Points to get their certification work. And then was just reading about you and hearing about the story of almost 20 years now of 5 Points Academy, which is such a huge accomplishment. So I'm excited to really learn more about you and kind of about 5 Points.
Cool. Yeah, we're old. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, it's great to have been around and to still be doing stuff. And it's great that you know Ian. I'm really happy to have him on staff here. He's an excellent instructor. I like him a lot. He's a good guy.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
he's a good guy.
Well, I know, I know you're a senior instructor with Strong First. You've been in that community for a while. And then also with the work that you do with martial arts and Muay Thai, which you're just telling me about. So to kind of kick off this podcast, would love to hear more about your origin story. Like, how did you get into the world of strength and conditioning and get into martial arts, which eventually led you into opening up this studio in NYC?
Okay, cool. I hadn't done any martial arts growing up. I was a team sport guy. That was all my peers. I played a lot of hockey, little soccer, some baseball, but martial arts wasn't in my my kind of orbit. I moved to New York to go to grad school from Detroit, and I was working at night as a bartender to pay the bills, and it didn't interfere with classes. And my barback was talking about this thing Muay Thai he did, and this is 1990, 1991. So I had never heard of it, and probably not many people had. There wasn't much of it in the States at that time. There wasn't much of it outside of Thailand. A bit in England and Holland. Other than that, some Japan. Other than that, not so much. Anyway, I went with this guy, my barback, to this class. And this guy, Phil Nurse, who some people may have heard of. He's coached some UFC fighters now in striking. At that time, he didn't actually live in the States. He was just kind of back and forth now and then. He's originally English. He had family here, so he'd come visit. So I trained with him when he was here. But other than that, I was kind of on my own. And I just kind of fell in love with it. So I wanted to do it as much as I could. So I was going to a local boxing gym just to practice. And there was this guy whacking the bag one day. And I said, wow, he looks like he knows what he's doing. So I went up, I said, hey, I don't mean to bother you. I'm Steve, I'm just starting out. Anyway, his name was Edge Brown, also English, but permanently in the States. He's a former world champion. He trained with the guy, Master Toddy, who is a transplanted Thai in Manchester, England. He was one of the first to bring Muay Thai to the West. And I said to Edge, hey, would you work with me? And he said, no. And I went, all right, cool. And I went back to doing my thing. And a few weeks later, he'd come up, he said, all right, I'll work with you. And I was lucky enough, never having done this before in my life, except, just recently started, to have someone of that caliber as my training partner. Eventually, he told me he started training me because he was bored of hitting the bag and he wanted somebody he could spar with. So I had him all to myself. It was fantastic. Wow. So to put that in, kettlebell terms, it's like I had, Brett or Pavel or somebody just for me. It was great. I really loved it. I applied myself. I had some talent for it, and he was a great instructor. So I came along really fast. I was in grad school, so I had time. So I went to Thailand to train. I said, when am I getting another opportunity like this? At this point, it was just a hobby for me. I did it because I liked it. And one day, I was there for a couple months, and the guy who owned the camp, G.D. Damerman, walked up to me. He said, hey, you're fighting in a week in a stadium down south. And I went, no, you don't understand. I do this just for fun. And in 1991, Muay Thai wasn't really done recreationally, and certainly not in Thailand. Thais do it to make money, to live, support their families. So he didn't really get it. He said, you train, you should fight. I went, all right, whatever. So I went and did it, and that was the most fun I had ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it. I lost, I fought a guy who had 100 and some odd fights at that point. I had one. I was 26, having my first fight, which is an age when many Thais are retiring.
Oh, right.
But it was fantastic. I loved it. And when we finished and I went back to the camp, everybody was really nice and happy with me. And I was like, I don't understand. I lost. And they're like, you trained hard. You fought well. You did your best. It is what it is. And that's kind of the reason I love Muay Thai is there's none of this weird posturing or, macho guy stuff. Thais train, they fight, but there's nothing fake about it, and they're having fun while they do it. They do the best they can. They work as hard as they can, but they remember to enjoy it while they're doing it. And I try to do that here at 5 Points. I think we pull that off. And that is something I also like about the whole Strong First community. There's like nothing phony or fake or this kind of affected macho thing. Anybody who's willing to train and learn is welcome to come and do it. So I love that. Anyway, so after I had my fight, I came back. I told Edge I wanted to keep fighting. Luckily, he was connected with the English scene, European scene, because there was nothing going on the East Coast. So I got thrown in the deep end really fast. Luckily, I was able to swim instead of sink. I was able to fight all around the world. I went to the World Championships, got a bronze. I won a couple international titles. I got to see things I never would have otherwise. I loved it.
Wow.
One day, Edge said to myself, and he had at that point built a small group of fighters. Another one of the fighters, Simon Burgess, he said to us, hey, this guy from this gym called me, Doug something from Crunch. At that point, Crunch was 3 locations in New York City. It was privately owned. And their thing was they wanted to do innovative programming in classes. That was their thing. So they wanted to do kickboxing. So he said, you guys go teach. So we were like, yeah, whatever. Okay. So we went and did that. And it was so much fun. Like, people really enjoyed, like, especially, you see a woman who's been told her whole life that she has to act a certain way. And then you tell her it's okay to hit stuff, enjoy it, sweat, make noise, whatever. It's really rewarding. It was a lot of fun. So we were teaching people this skill. They're having a good time with it. It was great. Crunch was very good to us. Doug actually paid for me to go to Worlds. They let us build a whole team out of this place, which is wild. We're working out of this, gym and aerobics place, running a fight camp, fight teams. It was great. It grew and grew and grew and got sold. It's been sold any number of times now, but originally it was, I think, the Bally's. And then things changed because it became this kind of corporate atmosphere, which is great, but we didn't really have a place there anymore. So we said, let's go do our thing. So we started 5 Points. Simon Burgess, myself, and another strength trainer that we had met there, Kevin McGrath. So our idea was to have a small strength training gym with then an even smaller martial arts component, because that's what we thought would take off. It's kind of become something different. It's a very large martial arts component with a small strength training component that supports that. But anyway, I think that's the story of my life. You have to kind of like,
I love it. It's
go where things take you. Yeah, that's what you do. You don't fight it, you just go. Anyway, so we opened 2002 in downtown Manhattan, border of Soho and Chinatown. And we had some independent trainers in there. And there was this guy that had kettlebells. And I was like, what are those things? And he's like, well, come check it out. So I trained with him, and it was a lot of fun. And he said, oh, yeah, you know, it's great. You got to go learn more about it. You know, check it out. There's Simon now. I don't know if you saw him. That's my one partner. Our office is like this big. It's very New York.
I love it. Yeah.
Can't spare any space that costs money.
Absolutely.
So I said, all right, I want to learn more about this. So I went and did an instructor certification with a group that was not a Pavel affiliated group. And I was unimpressed. I was like, yeah, whatever. There's got to be more to it than this. That independent trainer brought another guy into our place who had gone to St. Paul, Minnesota, and trained with Pavel in maybe 2007. He said, no, you're wasting your time. He said, you got to go here. This guy is the man. And I went, all right, cool. So 2008, I went to USC. It was outdoors. It was hot. It was humid. Everybody was wrecked. Everybody's hands were torn to shreds. And it was almost as much fun as fighting.
Awesome.
It was great. I loved it. And I was exposed to, like, you know, Dan John was there, and Kenneth J was there, and Pavel was teaching, and Brett might have been there. It was just, there was a lot of smart people there. So did the cert, got the cert, loved the cert, got home, went, man. So I sent Pavel an email, and I said, hey, this was fantastic, but I feel like I just had a big fight, and now what? I'm like, you get that crash, right? And he took the time to answer me. He said, Steve, he said, go practice. And I went, that is amazing, because that's exactly what I would have been told by one of my coaches or trainers in Muay Thai. It's like, yeah, just go get better and work on stuff. Yeah. So I did, but I was completely, I was sold. So I think I have taken every course, every seminar, every workshop, every affiliated group. Like, I've been lucky enough to know John Engelmann and go through Flexible Steel, and we have him here a lot to teach. Andrea, Yushi Chang, and Ground Force Method. Brett to do FMS. It's like all these things are tied together, and they're all just really smart. And they all have a purpose, and the purpose is to allow people to educate themselves and get themselves stronger and healthier and live better lives. And I just love it.
Yeah. So when you said when you first got into Muay Thai, and you said hockey, played a lot of other sports, which is, beautiful. There's the competition aspect, but something was different about Muay Thai where you said it was so much fun. What was it like? Was there something specific that you felt immediately of this just feels like I need to be more of a part of this?
Yeah. The first time I did it, it hurt so badly, right? I ripped up my feet because I was doing stuff wrong and trying to do it too hard, and I'm right. My feet were swollen. It was, I was miserable, but it just was so much fun to be like taking my body and making it work in a particular way to to accomplish this this goal and do these movements. And I don't know. I don't know if I can explain why it hooked me the way it did, but it did, and you know, changed my life. That's for sure.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I have a friend who's into Muay Thai, and I've seen the work that he does. The one thing I saw that seems so interesting is sparring in Muay Thai. It's almost very relaxed, almost like kind of like a slap, you know, partner. It's where you see like a lot of other martial arts or in other practices, it's very hard. It's where it seems like Muay Thai, it's almost like a play when they're in practice.
So that's a very Thai style way of doing things, which a lot of Westerners have trouble with because we come from this background where, first of all, they're super relaxed when they're doing it. Secondly, there's a difference between training and fighting. Like, you know, when you're training for your event, you're training, and then you're training for your strength event, right? So you're not trying to max out in the gym all the time. It's counterproductive, right? It's the same thing. If you're killing each other when you're sparring and you're hurt and you're damaged and you can't train, then it doesn't really help. The other difference, I think, is Thais are training because they're fighting. So why do they need to be wailing on each other? You know, they're going to get paid to go do that. So it's a very different. It's an individual sport, right? I mean, it's you fighting in the ring, right? But it's a team sport too, because you can't do it by yourself. So why you want to be hurting your teammates? You know,
right?
You're there to kind of help each other, and you know, rising tide lifts all boats. Same thing. If instead of beating people down, if everybody's getting better, then everybody's getting better. You know?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the idea.
Yeah. So when you got into that tournament, you said it was like such this changeover. What was it about that first tournament? Was it like kind of like the aggressive release of like the competition, or was it more, you mentioned like that camaraderie of like the other fighters in there? Was it kind of just a combination of the whole environment that just seemed so fun?
It's great to have a focus, and it's a serious focus because end of the day, it's somebody who's trying to hurt you, right? But it's really fun. It is. It's just fun. And it's fun to have teammates, and it's fun to be preparing for this. And sometimes it's a grind, but in the end, you know that you're going to be able to apply it and have, you know, hopefully this reward. So, you know.
I love how you use the word fun so many times already in here. It's something that I think we forget about a lot of times in the strength and conditioning world, is that we can debate all these serious things over, you know, overall, but the goal of it, especially when you're working with clients, is to make it as enjoyable as possible.
I think you have to, otherwise people aren't going to do it, right? Because look, especially if there's an element of like discomfort or, you know, pain. Yeah. If they're not enjoying it, they're not going to do it. So that doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. So when you first went to that one kind of kettlebell group that seemed like it just wasn't, it wasn't, jiving well with you from there. What was it? Was it just not a real systemized approach?
That's exactly right. It wasn't systemized. It was a little bit arbitrary. There was a lot of, I can do this, look at that sort of thing, but not. It was supposed to be a teaching cert, and there wasn't a whole lot taught about teaching, which I will say. So one of the things and this is kind of random and out of nowhere, but I'll throw it in. One of the things I really love about Strong First, right? I'm going to say it's a very different organization now than the one I started with. But I think that's because it's the organization and the people in it aren't operating from a place of ego. They're operating from a place of making it better. So I think over time, it's evolved into a true teaching sort of cert where, yes, the people going through
I lost you there for a sec.
Well, you froze. Hold on. Sorry. Let's see if we can get us back. All right. Cool. So I think the organization has evolved over time to become a true teaching. There was always an emphasis on showing you how to do it properly and how to show other people how to do it properly. And there is still an emphasis on the people going through it being able to perform the techniques and the lifts and put up with some discomfort. But the focus now, I think, is teaching people the best possible way to apply these principles to people who may know nothing or may know a little or may know some other things. And I think a lot of that. So I think that's two things. I think one, and it's not like I've had this deep conversation with Pavel, but I've heard him talk to other people about it while I sit there quietly. He's not interested in this for him, I don't think. I think he kind of sees this as kind of something, as a legacy that he's leaving, right? And I think Brett has been instrumental in then taking that idea and kind of molding the organization and refining it all the time, so that, and drilling it down so these principles are taught in the best possible way, in the clearest possible way, and, you know, the most user-friendly way for people to pass on. That's my impression, for what it's worth. Yeah.
I agree with you in many ways. I found this community relatively early, about 2009, 2010. So I went to that St. Paul, Minnesota. That was my first certification. And I've spoken before about it on the podcast, how it was a much different like flow of the weekend. It was very much like, there was like a rite of passage, like almost militarist type feel to those early ones when you were hearing that timer go off, you were running the bells, you were getting the training, and it was a blast. I would, I would never have traded it for the world, and got a chance to, learn from Pavel when he was still doing certifications.
Right.
But then I've gotten a chance to assist at some of the SFG ones now, and I've seen the flow of it, and it's very different. It's a much different pace of it, but the evolution of it, it seems like now we're attracting a lot more. It's not an elitist type program where you have to be at a certain level. And I wonder have you seen that at all in the martial arts world as well? Like, because when I grew up, I remember in the late 80s and early 90s, it was like there was a few spots around, and you kind of had to prove yourself to get into it. Where it seems like now it's a lot more open.
Yeah, I would say that there's been an explosion in martial arts of all varieties. A large part of that is because UFC was really well funded, and they created this market, and then from that other things have fed. I'll also say that's really what I love about Muay Thai, though. It's never been like this kind of like macho kind of thing. It's a hard style, but when I went to camp in Thailand, the first thing I noticed is everybody's laughing. I mean, laughing, literally laughing, goofing, playing around, training seriously, right? But having fun. So I don't know if that's the case in all martial arts, because those aren't what I do, but it's definitely the case in Muay Thai, and I really like it.
That's interesting. I had a friend, his name's Angus Buckle. He owns the Sleep Performance Coach out of the UK. And he had his experience where when he was young, he moved to Thailand for 3 months because he was practicing it in England and wanted to immerse it. And he said a very similar thing. Like, it was hard training. Like, when they were training, like, you were getting into it. But outside of it, there was this very just freeing feel of everybody just laughing and just enjoying themselves. And there was such this like deep camaraderie with it. It's interesting how, you've kind of said the very similar thing. I don't know if it's like universal around all different practices, but it does seem like it's very deep with Muay Thai. Right.
Yeah, no, that's, I'm not surprised that he had the same experience. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Great. So you said you opened up 5 Points with more of the emphasis of having it like more of the strength and conditioning type spot with the small martial art, and it kind of inverted from there. Like, did that just naturally evolve over time?
So, we thought that people would do a gym, and then, Simon and I would do a little of our martial arts thing, and we'd kind of feed. But the membership base got many, many more students interested in doing Muay Thai, and then Simon also teaches a Filipino martial art called Pakita Tershikali, which is stick, knife, empty hand. Those were like very popular. So that grew. And then the strength part, and it was very traditional sort of strength training at that point. we had barbells and some dumbbells and, some machines. And then once I got involved with the bells and we brought those in, those seemed, number one, I thought they were phenomenal. So I was really doing them a lot myself. And I've also had this discussion with a lot of people in the organization. It's really cool to be strong. That's fantastic. But I started very late in the sport of Muay Thai. I fought at a really high level. And I had a lot of injuries and I didn't treat them very smartly. So by the time we opened and I wasn't really fighting, I was just coaching, I was busted and broken. It hurt for me to move. I was stuck in the posture of my sport, things hurt. And I started using the bells and, they talk about those aha moments. Man, my shoulders didn't hurt. I could move full range again. I could do the sport that I really liked again. I could do Muay Thai fully again. So I loved what that brought to fighters. Like, yeah, it makes them stronger, but it also makes them like resilient and supple and, helps with injury prevention and rehab. So I started pushing that. And then the kettlebells became a huge thing on their own. So we kind of went this back and forth, right? From strength to martial arts to strength to martial arts. So
right.
It's cool.
I could see how much of a correlation in the marriage of bell work can be for something like striking with Muay Thai, because it's a lot of emphasis on your joints when you're doing kicking and probably hitting the bag, where kettlebells kind of take a little bit of that pressure away. So before, when you were training, was it primarily, were you doing like more heavy barbell based work and stuff like that? Or
so when I first was doing nothing. I was doing the old train yourself fit, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, that's, you get fit through the sport. And that's kind of a legacy way of looking at things. Old school trainers will be like, you don't have to strength train because you're doing this, right? Then, because I tended to be a little on the small side, the scrawny side, right? I was like, I got to work on this. So, you talk to people at a gym and you're getting like bodybuilding advice and, whatever advice. So it's not necessarily very helpful for a combat sport that is by weight class, right? You might start getting bigger and not necessarily stronger. And so then when you start to learn, I didn't know anything about programming, right? I mean, these are all things I've learned through being through this organization. It's like, boom, it's fantastic. I can teach people how to get stronger without getting any bigger, right? Or I can take people who need to put a little size on and do it this way, and they can get a little more durable, right? I mean, it's just how you devise the program. And again, also, the bells are fun and they're great, and they're what I really like. Some people love the barbell, so I use the barbell with them. And, it's the same principles and foundations. It's just a different tool. And I know how to use it through my contact with this organization. It's, it's been great.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just came back recently from SFL. It was the first time I did the barbell work in Chicago. Right. Been doing kettlebell work forever. And it's, the same principles, just kind of a different tool, different modality in there. So when you got into it and you started to feel this kind of just the injuries started to dissipate and just go away. And so was there specific drills or specific training protocols that you found like worked really well for your body?
So no, at that point, and I was young-ish, so, I just wanted to do like snatches and swings and, clean and press. I wanted to do ballistics and move as much weight as I could. Now, as I've gotten older, I've grown to appreciate get up in a way I never did, especially as it's like evolved, right? Because back when you did it, right, it's same as when I did it. It was get up, get down. That was it, right? Now there's like, it's an assessment and a tool and a rehabilitation tool as you're getting stronger with it. It's fantastic, right? And you can break the progressions down into pieces to work on your shoulders, to work on your hips. It's fantastic. Windmill, bent press, all those things that I didn't really care that much about when I was, younger and I was still thinking about just moving stuff fast, right? I really like those. So now I think, I have a healthier mix and an awareness of what to do with people where they need the ballistics, but if they start now with other things, then they won't necessarily have to deal with stuff later on that I had to deal with.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, the get up is such a fascinating conversation for me, because I've talked with people on both sides of like, it's overrated, it's underrated from there. And it's like, I think it's really like, you know, whatever you're kind of going for. I've heard a lot with wrestlers and people in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's such a great tool because it's really great for grappling. It's like that kind of work capacity based movement. But then it's like going too heavy on it. It can the volume can add up really quickly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you got to be smart with that, like anything else, you know, but, and I think that's great too. Like there's a place, I think, for doing a fairly large number of light get-ups. And then there's also a place for doing not very many really heavy ones, depending on what you're trying to do and the pace you're working at. I think it's a great exercise, and it's something I didn't appreciate until I had some more miles on me.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So when you were doing that, were you doing more of kind of like lighter, like higher volume based work, focusing on movement with get-ups, or were you more of doing a little bit heavier with lighter reps?
So no, I was doing heavier with lower reps. And then now I kind of like through the year, it'll change depending on, I put them in. They're rarely a central part of what I do anymore. They are like the off day or a recovery day or something I'll throw in as a warm up. So I'm always getting them in. They're not really the focus, but they make me feel good to do them. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's one of those movements that just feels so good just to do just a couple. It's kind of that litmus test for the day. I've talked to people before about like the dictator bell or your dictator exercises. Like
right.
Just, it's kind of that good self-awareness drill just to figure out where you're at for the day. Am I feeling really strong, or am I feeling a little bit off? I need to back it off a little bit today. What's
stuck, what isn't. Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. Yeah. So with your students that come in who are like, if they're doing martial arts, are you guys doing a combination with most of the people you're working with, or do they have kind of a choice of what they're doing?
Yeah, so we have dedicated kettlebell programming, and a lot of people take advantage of it. Some don't, it's not their thing, which is fine. And then some of the fighters will ask for stuff to do on their own, or I might suggest that they add this in. So I would say most people here take advantage of it, but not everyone.
Yeah. What's your take on some of the body weight based work that you do? I know like SFB was one of the most like eye-opening weekends of my life when I did that, just because of the high tension work, but it was so it was so taxing on the body at the same time too. Do you incorporate a lot of body weight based work, especially with the students that you work with in martial arts?
So yeah, especially like pull-ups are amazing, right? Pull-ups make everything better, right? So if you get people working on pull-ups, especially people who've never done a pull-up, they're going to be stronger. And it's kind of a default way of making sure people aren't heavier than they should be as well. Because if you're bigger than you should be, a pull-up is really hard, really hard. The tension and relaxation aspect of it, in fact, of all the certs, is something that everybody who trains here is familiar with, because that's the same way you kick and punch. You need to be relaxed until your moment of impact, and then you need to relax again. So that's something that people are familiar with, even if they haven't like verbalized it. That's something they're doing or been taught to do when they're striking.
Yeah. That's interesting. I remember when I talked with Dr. Stuart Mcgill, he brought that up a lot about the best of the best in power athletes and work. Like they know how to tense and relax as quick as possible, just going from both of those states right there. So I can see how that would work really, huge in Muay Thai, and a lot of the fast and loose based drills that they Strong First has a really direct correlation with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very cool. That's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So what do you practice now? Like what's kind of your training protocol that you kind of focus on? Do you have a specific plan that you're running, or do you kind of just keep it a little bit more intuitive?
So no, I wait through the year. Like I'll work on something else. So right now, I went back. We hosted a workshop here, the Kettlebell 101 and 201. And I went, you know what? I haven't done rite of passage in forever. So I'm running through rite of passage again. And I'm really enjoying it because I haven't done it in, 15 years. I don't know.
Okay.
15 years? Yeah. I'm having a good time.
Is that the end of the kettlebell program, the rite of passage?
Yeah, clean and press and pull up ladders and swing snatch. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I was doing simple and sinister before that. And then before that, I was doing a barbell pyramid. So I just, I work 6, 8, 12 weeks maybe, and then I change it up. So I just try and keep going with stuff. Yeah.
That rite of passage program, I can't think of how many people I know that started on that. That was their first journey into a specific kettlebell program. I think I did the same thing, and it's still just absolutely such a perfect program.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Who was I talking? I was talking with Mike Sousa about that and like the return of the kettlebell, like the double program
right
there, just putting on that mass. Like you go back and forth between those two programs.
Yep.
It's just absolutely huge.
Yeah. Now the bell that Mike uses and the bells I use look very different. Let me tell you.
Well, what Sousa does out there in Modesto, I think is worthy of goals for anybody.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So since you first got into kind of coaching into now, like what's some of the evolutions of how you've changed your coaching approach? Is it very different from when you first got started into how you approach new clients now?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know anything when I started. I mean, I really didn't. I didn't know anything. I knew Muay Thai from doing it and being coached. And then from learning to teach by teaching, group fitness classes. When I first started strength training, I knew from my level 1, right? That's it. So that's all I did. And as I've added things and learned things, I've gotten more tools, and over time, I've developed a much better eye and appreciation for what'll work for. Like, you can't make everything. Everything doesn't work the same way for everybody, right? So I would say that just over time, with experience, I've learned how to better apply things to individuals. Yeah, and just gotten more comfortable and aware of how to use the same principles that we get taught at every cert as I'm teaching people.
Yeah. It is. It always comes back to those principles. What I did for a while was, it seemed like we would focus so much on developing the foundation of like swings and get-ups, which obviously is important, but at the same time, like we started to coach people a lot quicker into the clean and press and into the snatch a lot faster from it, thinking that like, if you just focus on swings and get-ups, that's going to be everything for a while. But when we started to transition into the other drills a little bit quicker, people actually seemed like they were getting stronger.
And I think it also keeps them like really enthusiastic too, right? It's not everybody, unfortunately, who's willing to just sit and do the same task until they're as good at it as they can be, right? Yeah. Now and then you got to throw people a little breadcrumb to keep moving along, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think I think it's an important lesson for especially a lot of coaches out there, because we love getting deep down the rabbit hole of like the movement and all the breakdowns, but most people, they want to get stronger, they want to get healthier, and like for a while I was like, no, like you need to do so many swing, and even I've talked with Brett about this, like even you have to do 50 naked get-ups on both sides, like with the shoe before you can get into a weight. It's like, I get it. I know what you're talking about with it, but like a lot of people, they want to get into some progressions quicker, and that's okay. Like if the technique isn't absolutely perfect, that's okay. If it's safe, progress them a little bit faster. And that's where I think things have changed in some of the teaching and the principles with people. It's like, technique is important, but it's not this like grandiose thing of like, we have to have this exact perfect technique before you can move on to something else. I
think you're absolutely right. If somebody's not hurting themselves and they're safe and they're improving as they go, then keep moving them along. Right? I think that's what we do. Yeah.
So I've seen like you guys work with a lot of youth kids as well in 5 Points. Is that right? Or?
So we do. We have youth Muay Thai and youth BJJ. I don't teach either of those classes. When we started, I taught everything, but I have a staff that's much better with the young kids now than I am. So I get them when they're like teens and they're transferring to the adult classes. Gotcha. We start them at 5. And for the young kids like that, I have Emily Bearden, who is a SFG2, SFL, and also an associate teacher in 3rd grade elementary school. So she has all kinds of ideas and pedagogical tools for working with kids. I have a guy, Ray Yip, who's an SFG, and Giovanni Mercado, who is not a strength trainer. He's just one of our Muay Thai instructors, one of our pro fighters. They're enthusiastic. They love to work with the kids. They're energetic, and they do a really good job with them. I got to tell you, at least to me, working with young kids is the hardest thing, because you have to entertain them, and I'm not entertaining. You know? So it takes a lot. You got to be special to work with young kids.
Yeah. Well, it's like it teaches you a lot, though, like working with the young kids, right? Of how to simplify things down a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly true. Yeah. It's not, can't make it complicated. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So we have 5-year-olds, and then we have all the way up to 70-year-olds training. So yeah.
That's a beautiful dynamic there. With the young kids, are they mostly coming in for the martial arts aspect, or do you get them into strength and conditioning at all?
So I have some teens that I train, strength training, but overall the kids program is a martial arts program. Yeah.
Nice. Do they do competitions for young kids?
So definitely in BJJ. Muay Thai, there is a push, and this is something that I'm glad of. So just in the last 2 years, Muay Thai has become accepted as an Olympic sport. It's not actually in the Olympics yet, but it's gone through this process where it's been accepted as an Olympic sport. And the governing body for the United States, USA Muay Thai, this guy, Patrick Rivera, and now he's working with the WBC as well. They're trying to do youth competitions that are more educational and don't have head strikes. Which is a reason in the past we haven't put kids in competitions, because I'm not putting any kids in to get hit in the head. I just don't think developmentally it's not good. I don't think it's responsible. I don't think that they're able to make a decision to do it. So we haven't done it. So we're excited that that's starting to happen in the States. It's been happening in Europe for a long time. We're just really behind. So hopefully that'll keep growing and we can get them more involved, because it's great for them to have something to strive for. And they're working here, and they see they're advancing and they're grading, but it's a competitive sport, and they see that the older people are fighting, so they want to be able to do it as well,
Yeah. Well, and the competition is kind of part of the exciting piece. It's great to train with it, but having some sort of competition at some point, I totally understand just the head striking in there. And I think, that's why I think a lot of the popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has gone so high, because it's not as much of the striking. It's the grappling, it's challenging from there, but you're not getting that head trauma as much.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's probably true. Yeah. We're lucky to have a good program of that here too. Guy Ed Chan runs our program. He's great. And a lot of the kids do both. So, and it's a lot of fun having them around. They're energetic. That's for sure.
Oh, I'm sure. It sounds like a great spot. I've got to come down and check you guys out. It just seems like
I
you
wish
guys
you'd
have
come
an
visit.
Blast.
Yeah.
So, well, Steve, dude, it's been great chatting with you. I really appreciate you taking the time. And
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
I love hearing about the story that you're doing and all the work that you guys are doing, especially with the community of Strong First that we're both a part of, so much. So I really appreciate it. So if people want to find out more about 5 Points Academy, if they're in the area, what's the best place that we can direct them?
So academy5points.com is the website. There's all kinds of information on there. We're on Instagram, 5 Points Academy. Come on by. We're in downtown Manhattan. Come see us.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Steve, dude, it's great having you on. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll do this again at some point. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Michael.
Awesome. Right. Listeners, thank you so much for connecting. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.